So we've got a program now that will read the video file, create an object here, video capture object. We can get some of the properties of the video file. We can then set up the increment of the frames according to what the user wants, if they want to analyze every second, 2 seconds, or whatever. And then what we do is we set the start frame, or we set the frame we want to read. We then read that frame, convert it to grey, and then we use these rather clunky but effective conditional statements to advance or decrement the frames. But there's a potential problem lurking in these control statements. Let's have a look at what I mean. Let's go forward a couple of seconds. So now we're at 75th frame. 75 divided by the frames per second is 25. So that's 75 divided by 3 seconds. Bit of maths in their head. And what we were going to do is, let's go back. We're at the start now of the video. Now if the user then hits back again, look at what is told to the user. Hey, we're going back minus 250 frames. But the video itself hasn't gone back. It can't do that because the video doesn't exist. So here we have the problem that if the user gets out of sync or out of whack with where they are in their analysis, they could happily say, oh, the animal is here, or Ringo is here, and then they're still clicking back and they're clicking forward. And when we save all this data, you might say, oh, that mouse didn't move, or Ringo didn't move for 25 seconds. That's just incorrect. So what we need to do is we need to put in a limit to what is played on the screen and also what is told to the computer, to the program, to say, hey, we're limited to the start of the video file. We're limited to that start frame. So let's have a look. This is going forward, so that's increment. We're not interested in that. What we're saying here is that if the user tries to make the start frame less than 0, okay, so if the start frame is less than 0, we want to set the start frame to 0, equals 0. And so it will try to do what the user says, but if it comes up to this condition, it will then basically say, no, start frame is 0, and it will only ever use that value. So let's go forward a couple of seconds. We're 2 seconds forward. We're going back. I'm still hitting the B button, and so now it's basically saying, no, this is the limit. We're at 0. This is not updating because, again, we can't go back towards before the start frame. So when we start to save all this information in a CSV file for later analysis, everything should line up and be correct accordingly. Now, that's what the start frame. Let's think now of the end of the file. Let's say the user wants to go further than the end frame. Let's have a look at what will happen. So I'm just going to hold down the F, okay, and we'll see what happens. At some point, we're going to hit the end of the file. Oh, okay, let's see. It collapsed the program, it broke the program, and it said, hey, we've got a big problem here. It's somewhere near the 1825th frame. An assertion was failed. Because remember, what's happening is we're setting the frame, and then we try and read that frame, and if it will return the frame, this is a NumPy structure, I believe, but then it'll also return a flag to say, hey, I was able to get that frame. If that is false, it will basically say, hey, we've got a problem here. I can't run this program anymore, and it will break. So what we need to do is now set the end frame, hard set, to say, hey, look, this is it. This is all you've got to play with for your analysis. So we want essentially the frame count of the video. So let's go up here and we'll say, what is the total frame count? So frame count equals the vid capture. So that's the object, and we want to get essentially how many frames are in the video. Let's have a look at the parameters that we can get from the OpenCV documentation. Here we go, number of frames in the video file. So we need cap prop frame count, and that will give us the total number of frames. So what is it? cv2.cap prop frame count. Now this, we just need this as an integer. There's no such thing as half a frame. And then we'll just print out to the user, okay, the video has this number of frames. Let's see what we get out. Put this back up for you to read. So the video has 1824 frames. Okay, good. We'll quit that. Now, we know the frame rate of the video, so we can convert from frame count into the number of seconds. We respond better to the number of seconds because we're used to it. So what we can do is we can convert to, video duration in seconds equals the frame count divided by the video frames per second. And this does make sense to have a fractional frame duration, because we didn't stop exactly at 25 seconds, or didn't stop exactly at 72 seconds. So let's now print out the video duration in seconds is vid duration seconds. So we can use this information later on if we want to write a GUI, or we wanted to basically say to the user, hey, you've got this much to play with, this much time. So 1824, 72.96 frames. Let's get out the rusty dusty calculator, just double check it, I'm sure it's correct. 1824, number of frames divided by the frame rate gives us 72.96. Okay, so there it is there. So that's all correct. So now that we have that information, we can now set the limit to this start frame. So if the user tries to make the start frame, greater than the, what did we say? Total count of frames or something? Frame count. Frame count. Let's have a look. I've just got it here. It's frame count. Yep. What we are going to do, no, not that one, please. So frame count. We're going to then set the start frame equals frame count minus 1. The reason why we put that -1 there is just to be dead certain that we're not trying to return a frame that doesn't exist. Okay, so we'll go back one. This should be okay, this should work. So I'll just hit down the F key again. We're expecting a problem at around about 1825 frames. Okay, so here I'm still pushing forward, and it is saying, right, I'm only going to play at the frame before the very end of the file. So this is good. We've now set the start limit, 0th frame, first frame, and the end frame. So now they cannot go further. If they hit back, yeah, of course it makes sense, because we have a frame that makes sense. So we can go back. So there we go. We're getting around some of these potential problems with getting a user to interact with our program. I'll leave it there.